Welcome to Adjusted Reality, a podcast series trusted by the adjusted and brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, where we learn from athletes, celebrities, influencers, and healthcare professionals about how to optimize health in a fun, relatable way. Join me, Dr. Sherry McAllister, as we welcome chiropractor, advocate, author, Dr. Fab Mancini. Dr. Fab Mancini is a leading voice in self-healing and preventative health, known globally as a chiropractor, educator, and media expert. He is a best-selling author of The Power of Self-Healing, but wait for it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he has the latest book out. It's called Self-Health, Reverse Chronic Disease, Restore Your Vitality, and Transform Your Life, one choice at a time. Now, he is also the host of Ending Chronic Disease podcast and the TV series Thriving in the New Normal. Dr. Mancini has been featured on major networks, CNN, ABC, Fox. I could go on forever. He is a trusted advisor to CEOs and global organizations, a Harvard-educated leader, continues to inspire millions through media, education, and advocacy for wellness. I guarantee you he will adjust your reality today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Fab Mancini.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. McAllister. I'm so excited to be with you because I'm a big fan, and I really love the way that you have brought so much awareness to the world because that's really what fulfills us personally, is to realize that there's a lot of people out there that have not been exposed to some of this information, some of these ideas, and they're having tremendous changes in their lives because of it.
You're absolutely right. And that, I think, is why we live our passion daily. And when you do that, that special word vitality comes out. And I think as you now go into this new adventure with your book, one of the pieces that really showcases who you are, Dr. Fab, is you get down to the place where you meet the person where they're at. And then you take them where they need to go. And where they need to go is so important. And that's what the title of your book is so fantastic about. It's self-health. I mean, do we not all want to hand up? Sometimes we've fallen and we need that love. And sometimes we're doing great and we want to keep on that track for success. So as I opened your book and I started going through it, I saw some things that kind of made me think, how many people actually know this? So let's start with, you open your book by saying chronic disease is not bad luck or genetics, but a choice. Now we're adjusting reality right there. That's a pretty bold statement. Can you explain why 90% of chronic disease is lifestyle driven, and what do most people misunderstand about that?
Well, the reality of it is that we've had an evolution of understanding in the scientific world. For many years, we thought that genetics was really the driving factor of whether somebody got sick or not. And then I remember about 30 years ago, we started having a new field come into place, which is called epigenetics. And epigenetics is really the lifestyle of the individual, but also is the environment around the cell. So what we realized is that less than 10% of our diseases are actually genetic in nature. So that means that of all the chronic diseases that we have in the world, in all the different diseases, less than 10% are actually there because of your genes. Now, what we learn is that the environment around the cell can actually activate a predisposition of a gene. So for instance, if you have a grandmother that had breast cancer and you had a mother that had breast cancer, naturally you would think, oh, I'm going to have breast cancer too. And what we learn is that if that individual will look at it differently and say, you know what, my grandmother had breast cancer, my mother did the same behaviors as my grandmother, I'm going to do things differently. And then they start changing their mindset, they start changing their behaviors, and all of a sudden now with the new behaviors come a new outcome. And maybe they're the ones that are going to be able to end the generational disease patterns that we're seeing over the history. So To me, when I read the scientific journals and I see that less than 10% are genetic in nature and that 90% or so are lifestyle in nature, then I realize, well, then we just need to talk to people about what are their lifestyle choices and can we help them have a few options that may be better than the ones that they're currently doing.
Okay, I know my audience right now is saying, okay, give us all the lifestyle choices. What do I need to do? What's the solution? But wait, we're not going to go there quite yet. Everybody needs to settle down. We're going to have some fun first to talk about where we've been to where we want to go. So, in today's world, we see more doctors actually prescribing medications than giving lifestyle based solutions that you just talked about. So, why do you believe the current healthcare system is failing us when it comes to chronic disease prevention and reversal?
Well, I think that we have to really go back to how this healthcare system was created in the first place. And the healthcare system primarily came into the system by many times pharmaceutical companies that decided to fund medical schools and decided to fund a system. And the thing is that they went with the intention, hey, we'll create some wonderful options for people. And that way, as long as you teach that option, now all of a sudden we can have a consumer that can be healthy. Now, I got to tell you, pharmaceuticals are incredible when it comes to conditions that are urgent in nature. If you have an infection that is actually out of hand, no matter what you try to do in the holistic natural space, you may need something a lot stronger. Or if you end up in the hospital and they have to leverage certain pharmaceuticals or even technology to keep you alive, like if it was in the case of my father, that ended up in intensive care, he had to do 21 surgeries, and after 2 weeks of being in intensive care, they saved his life. So I want you to know that there's a tremendous benefit. But what we also recognize is that what's really hurting our healthcare system, and 90% of the cost, is chronic diseases. And these chronic diseases have already been shown through science that they're more lifestyle in nature. So that means that having a one way of treating every disease out there, which is whether it's pharmaceuticals or whether it's surgeries, is not working for us. And it hasn't reduced the number of diseases that we have out there. We recognize that we can manage symptoms very well through pharmaceuticals, but they don't get to the root cause of the problem. And I got to tell you, Sherry, when I first started this journey, I was on my way to becoming a neurosurgeon in medical school. And I chose to become a doctor of chiropractic because I was introduced to the world of natural health science through chiropractic and also the world of prevention. And in those days, there wasn't such a things that people were talking like that. But chiropractic has been since 1895 in this space, very successfully helping millions of people every year restore their health through natural means. So I said to myself, I want to be in this space. I want to be in the natural space. And I've been in that space for 38 years this year. And I have loved it because he has given me the opportunity to empower so many patients that think that there's only one way to manage their condition rather than getting to the root cause of the problem and maybe finding that they can prevent or even put in remission some of the conditions that they're going through.
Oh, it's so true. And when we get down to the root cause, oftentimes when we look at the symptom, and it can be any symptom. And giving you an example of, let's just say there is a leak underneath your sink and you have this leaky pipe. Unfortunately, for many of us, we have a busy life and we end up, well, let's just stick a bucket under it, right? Because we don't want it to go onto our beautiful, just varnished hardwood floors. So the bucket's there, but what tends to happen, as you know, Dr. Fab, is that that bucket starts to fill and it fills over time. And then someone needs to change it. That's where I think we need to start thinking about our lifestyle. And, those symptom, easy symptom solutions are not lifelong reactions to where we want to go. And that's where I think you do such a fabulous job in this new book. And actually, one of the most shocking things I saw in your book is we started looking at things that seem very benign, such as food. And you noted something that many of our listeners are going to go, what? How, when you talk about food, it can either be our greatest medicine or our slowest poison. So there you have it. As you're listening there, maybe you're eating some great chips and drinking a Mountain Dew. Let's talk about that. What are some of the biggest dietary mistakes most people actually are making that are fueling this chronic disease epidemic?
Well, we have heard the term food as medicine for many years, but I don't think the average person really translates it as they could. For me, my motivation is the fact that we know that over 50% of personal bankruptcies in this nation are due to a healthcare problem. So this is the number one reason why people go personally bankrupt. But also the statistic that really did it for me is that for the first time, we have a generation of children, that's our children, that has a shorter lifespan than their parents. That means that some of us may outlive our children, which is unnatural to even think that a child will not outlive you. But that's what's happening every single day in this country. So to answer your question, what I started understanding is that the reason that this is important is because food is something that we do every single day. But the challenge is that most people don't understand that what used to be food that had tremendous nutrients that fed our body and our cells to function the way they were meant to function is no longer the reality. Over 60% of our foods are processed in nature that don't have any nutritional value per se. Over 60% of everything that people eat don't have any real nutritional value. Now, they're full of preservatives, so they make you feel good and full. They even make it taste good, but they don't feed your cells. So what happens when a cell is not fed? They break down and they can't actually function. But it gets worse. It's not the lack of nutrients only, it's the fact that our foods are full of toxins such as oils that have already been linked to most of the chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, obesity, diabetes. And that's why you hear in today's world, you hear a lot of talk about reducing the kind of oils that are dangerous to the body. Now, most of us are cooking every day and we're not even thinking, is this oil good for me or not good for me? The ones that are really into nutrition understand the difference, but the average person doesn't. So it's important that we understand what are the healthy oils that we should be cooking, like extra virgin oil, right? Those are some of the easiest way that you can cook your food instead of some of the other oils that have been proven not to be. But then also the amount of sugar in our foods, right? Many of these carbohydrates, they turn into sugar in the body, which creates something called an insulin resistant body, which leads to diabetes. So we can actually help manage diabetes or reduce diabetes symptoms by simply managing the insulin regulation of the body. So what does that mean? You have to reduce the number of sugars. And where do we find our sugars? Number one thing is our sodas. Some of our sodas have up to 50 grams of sugar in them. Caffeine drinks, that are full of sugars to boost you up, but then you crash down and that fools your body and creates an addiction in your brain, according to the expert, that you crave that sugar more and more. So we encourage people, switch at least one soda a day for water, clean water, filtered water that you can actually put into your system. And make sure that you evaluate and read the labels to see exactly what is it that ingredients you're putting into your body that are going to be healthy. That's why I always tell people, if you want to be and eat healthy, just stay in the organic section of fruit and vegetables. You can make smoothies today that are amazing, right? That can give you all the protein, antioxidants, all the things that your body needs to be healthy. And then try to put in your plate maybe something that doesn't come from there as far as 1/3 of the plate. So if you want a healthy protein, such as grass-fed beef or chicken, Great. Add that to the picture. That's a perfect plate right there. And if you want some sugar fixes, try to do it through fruit, natural fruit, instead of desserts and things that are full of concentrated sugar, which doesn't help our bodies be healthy.
And you're so right. When you start thinking about the lifestyle changes that we're making, and especially that astounding moment of even remotely thinking that you can outlive your child, it stops you in your tracks. I mean, it's the punch that we all need to adjust our reality that what we're doing today, if you're out there and you're a parent and you're thinking about what you're going to feed your children for dinner tonight, that's our responsibility. That is the ability to respond to the information that you are given. And now we're starting to create that moment of reflection that our lifestyle choices are, in fact, a critical piece. And we can't change everything because that puts us into a lot of chaos. And that's where people start quitting. It's that no do gap that you've listened to and further in prior podcasts with Dr. Kyra Bobinet. It's being able to recognize and adopt, like Dr. Fab just said, switch one out. You know, if you're sitting there listening as I teased about drinking a Mountain Dew, you know what? That's your last one today. Okay. Now, I do love that you bring up the lifestyle choices. And I also think as we cannot um, put our genetics as the problem, we can't have these excuses that stop us. But I also recognize that we all need a coach. And with you, Dr. Fab, being our coach today, there's a lot of powerful ways we can rewrite our health history. And you did this in one of your chapters where you shared a real life example of someone who really had the opportunity to do what you just said, make some changes for you. And they actually reversed some chronic disease through the changes that they made. Can you share with us what was that transformation so my audience can see it's possible?
Well, I've been very blessed to be in this field because I have seen so many transformations over the years with thousands and thousands of patients. And that's what keeps me motivated in doing all the media and public speaking and even writing books like this to try to keep the educational component in place. Uh, Everything that we want to change in our lives begins with an understanding that there's maybe a different way than the one that we're currently doing that may lead to a different outcome. So, for instance, I remember one of my patients was struggling with chronic back pain. Now, back pain has become one of the biggest disabilities in the world. And as a doctor of chiropractic, many of our patients are back pain patients. They're not the only patients that we see, but we're very good at that. Why? Because we try to look for the root cause from the beginning. We try to identify what led somebody into developing back pain in the first place. So sometimes it could be a repetitive movement, right? You have a job that requires you to do a certain movement day in and day out. You may have a job that requires you to be standing or sitting for way too long. That could be another option. So if we can understand what got it started, we can give you suggestions on how to prevent it or reduce it. That's number one. And then we realize that people may look at chiropractic from a structural perspective in maintaining our spine properly aligned, our nervous system functioning a little bit better. Then we have maybe other things such as techniques that allow our muscles to be worked on, right? There's amazing physiotherapy techniques and muscle techniques that can work out a lot of the muscle tension that's been stored there for years. And then we have also the way that people can move their bodies through gentle exercise. It could be by simply walking 20 minutes a day, whether if you have a pet or not, you can walk yourself through your neighborhood. It's a wonderful, we love to walk, hiking, etc. Or even if it's just, if you're sitting too long in a job, we want you to move at least every hour for 2 or 3 minutes. Even if you just get up and move around your space, just do that. If you have an opportunity to walk down the aisle in your office, just do that. Little things like that that make a difference. And here we are, people that have come to us over the years and said, well, my next thing for my chronic low back pain is they wanted to do surgery. and how many surgeries have we prevented over the years. And this is really where not only it benefits the individual from not having potentially life changes due to that surgery, but more importantly, to reduce the cost of what a surgery costs, or potentially what managing that after effect of a surgery with scar tissues, rehabilitation, and potentially maybe not even able to do the work that you're currently doing. These are things that we have to take into consideration. So all I'm saying is, look, when you are looking and you're going through a difficult time in whatever disease process, understand that there are natural health science providers like chiropractic, like naturopathy, like homeopathy, like acupuncture, and many others that are science-based, that they can give you a different opinion because we're addressing the body from a root cause basis, and we're trying to help you be able to manage it with lifestyle changes rather than only depending on pharmaceuticals. It's that simple. And I think the combination of both is what's going to really help society be able to be empowered and take control of their chronic disease rather than feel a victim to the statistics that we're seeing every single day.
You're right. You're right. And it was interesting. I love to walk in the mornings, and getting that natural energy started right away. But as I was walking yesterday, I thought about this, Dr. Fab, and I want you to reflect on this. So the number one cause around the globe, the leading disability around the globe, is low back pain. Now I want our audience to reflect that pain is a symptom. It is not a diagnosis. So what the World Health Organization is saying is that we are disabled by a symptom. Doesn't that take a whole new way of looking at it? Because I go back to the bucket under the sink. So we are honestly dysfunctional based on the drip. But the reality is someone's got to come along and literally adjust this problem, which is it's not about the drip. There is a crack in the seal in the pipe. And if you address that, voila, there's no need for a bucket. And that's where the world is right now. We cannot see this pain driving the number one disability. Pain is not a diagnosis. It's the symptom. And I know, Dr. Fab, you've lived your life, as have I, with a serious biohack. It's one of our favorite things in life. It's one of the things I go to seminars for. It's the reason why I love hanging out with chiropractors. Dr. Fab, what is your biohack?
Well, one of the things that I would tell you is this: pain is a friend, it's not the enemy. It's not only a symptom, it's actually the alarm system of the body. When you understand your nervous system, it's an electrical system. So when the body gives you pain, it's like a fire alarm in your house. When you have smoke, the fire alarm goes off. Think of that as your pain. But the smoke is only a warning signal, to a fire that may be behind it. So your symptoms, your pain, is a way that the body tries to alarm you to say, hey, there may be something happening in my heart. There may be something happening in my kidneys. There may be something happening in my digestive system. So the problem is we're so conditioned to stop the pain, especially usually through a pharmaceutical, which we have great pharmaceuticals that can stop your pain, right? We have an opioid epidemic, which patients will tell you, you can now take an opioid pharmaceutical that can actually stop your pain, but then at what expense, right? If you stop your pain, it does nothing to the smoke that is the body's trying to tell you, which is your symptoms, or even worse, what is the fire, which is the disease process that is beginning to develop in your body. So one of the things that we learned, Sherry, over the years is that by the time you have pain, the disease process has already been in your body for quite some time, in some cases, years. So when you go to a functional provider, right, like a functional medicine doctor, a chiropractor, a naturopath, we are trained to trace what that pain is trying to tell us. And we are very well trained to see what may be causing it? What organ or system could it be associated with? And now we even have functional exams. It's not your typical blood work and urine work that we've done for years. We actually have exams that can guide us as to what potentially may be happening inside your body. We have technology that can scan you and see arteriosclerosis before it even shows up in a blood test. This is the beautiful thing about our health today, is that between the root cause and the functional aspect of healthcare and technology that is coming in, trying to evaluate not only through monitoring our vitals through our watches and our apps, etc., but also technology that has been shown clinically and FDA clear to be able to support you in reducing that disease process so you don't have the type of symptoms that are actually making your life miserable every day.
It is. And I know you and I get adjusted, and that makes all the difference. I mean, yes, adjusted reality is where you get adjusted, but I hope that you're getting a real chiropractic adjustment out there, because I know it changes the way you feel. Like, Dr. Fab, tell me an example in your life where you're just zapped. You've been on the road, you're traveling, you're lifting, bending, twisting, pushing, pulling, the luggage, the poor bed at the hotel. We get to potentially a symposium or convention, and there's chiropractors everywhere, and life is good. And you get an adjustment, and you're like turned on and ready to go. Tell me experience that you personally have had with chiropractic that you can reflect on that made you probably much like me, which is I'm so glad that I became a chiropractor.
Well, I tell you that recently I was in a biohacking movie where they interview 170 of the biggest names in healthcare. And they were asking me what was my main biohacking hack? What was it that I would recommend everybody to do to not only look this young, but feel this good at my age? And I always said that for 38 years, I've been getting adjusted, a chiropractic adjustment, at least once a week. I have recommended that to people over the years because I've seen the power of a physical chiropractic adjustment throughout my whole career, 35 years as a doctor of chiropractic. My first experience of why I chose to become a chiropractor was because my chiropractor, within 6 weeks, not only had managed my whiplash after a car accident, but I used to get allergies for years, especially living in Texas, and my allergies went away. I used to have all these challenges in my digestive system where I would eat something and I would get my stomach turning. All of that went away. So then I said to myself, how is it that a physical chiropractic adjustment can help impact so many areas of the body? And that's because when you allow your nervous system to have better expression, it impacts all the systems of the body because the nervous system is the master system of the body. The brain controls everything in the body. So when the brain gets allowed to actually flow, then all of a sudden you have the opportunity to improve your function. So let me give it to you in a better way. This is a metaphor that I have used, Dr. Sherry, for years. Think of it like this. Stress right now is one of the biggest reasons why we get sick, right? We have emotional stress due to our jobs. We have stress due to our finances, stress in our relationships, stress in our economy overall, stress in our politics. I mean, you name it, there's a lot of stress. So your nervous system is kind of like the electrical system and the wiring system in your house. So think of it, the brain, as where you plug in your things, and then you're in your bathroom. Now you're going to plug in your electric toothbrush. You're going to plug in your hair dryer. You're going to plug in maybe two or three other things. And what happens? It gets overloaded. And now all of a sudden, nothing is working. So then you go to your garage, most likely, and you look at the circuit breaker, and you see that there may be one that got overloaded. And all of a sudden, when you turn it on, guess what happens? All of those things can work again. And next time you realize maybe you use them one at a time or two at a time instead of four or five at a time. So this is just like what we do in chiropractic. When we look at your spine, we realize that every vertebra is directly related to a specific nerve flow or electrical flow to a particular organ or system. So whenever you give us the symptoms that you're experiencing and the level of stresses that you have, it's easy for us to evaluate where in your spine we need to go to flip that switch, which is a very gentle adjustment, to allow your nervous system, your electrical system to function once again. And that's what, in a very nutshell, that's what we do every single day that you come to see an evaluation by a doctor of chiropractic. And the ones that come recognize the importance of that. That's why they come on a regular basis. It's not that they need to. It's not even that the doctor says you have to. It's the fact that when you maintain that electrical system working, you feel better than you've ever felt, and you like that feeling. I like to feel my best every single day. And every time I know that there's something going on in my life, I got too much stress, or I didn't sleep the right way, or like you mentioned, I'm on planes every week, then I know that all I have to do is go to that doctor of chiropractic. They check me, and if they find that there's something out of alignment, boop, they give me a gentle adjustment, and I'm feeling so great by the time I walk out of that office, because in most cases, you will feel the benefits within the next 5 or 10 minutes.
It's so true. And you know, even though we've been in this profession for many years, there's that moment of reflection when you after you get the adjustment, and it's awe-inspiring. And for those of you that get adjusted regularly, you get what I'm saying. And for those of you who have never had an adjustment and you're listening today and you're kind of curious, I know you're curious, get that adjustment, because once you do, you'll recognize that you now have one of those powerful biohacks that doesn't come with the adverse events that many of the medications do. And that resets you. Like you said, you know, that you flip the circuit, you have to find something that reboots it and gets you back on track. And that's one of the key components. I'm so glad you wrote this book that just came out. And I want to just go back to it for a moment, because you really talk about the future. And I think for most of us listening, we were looking at the future and we're really contemplating, because you know, we cannot live with a overflowing bucket under our sink, and we cannot live with focusing on the drip, the symptom. When you look at the future of health, would you agree it's not medication? And it's more likely that it focuses on precision health, as you put it in your book, and also personal empowerment. Where do you see the future of healthcare as we all sit here in today's world thinking things are going to change because we're going to get healthier, because now we're going to start taking dyes out of our food, and we're going to start looking at the core root causes of disease, especially when it comes to like the autism and our children that are suffering? How can people start being their own best health advocate today as you share the future, as you say, in precision health?
Well, my motivation in sharing with people why it's important to have precision health is the fact that the statistics right now in the chronic diseases in our children are so alarming. Not only the obesity rates, which is over 40%, which is, to me, I went recently to a theme park and I saw so many children, and I'm like, what happened to the healthy children? It wasn't there. And when you see thousands of children in one place, that's when it hits you, because we really only see children every so often. But anyways, so to me, precision health is very simple. We have to understand that the idea of diagnosis, of identifying 2 or 3 symptoms that are similar, giving it a name, and then because you have that name in the diagnosis, now we're going to have to give you this medication, and that's the only option. That's an antiquated model. It hasn't worked and it will never work. Why? Because all of us are unique individuals. You see, I may have the same disease process as you do, but I have a completely lifestyle that is different than you. I may live in a different region of the world, or even in the United States. I may actually wake up in my morning and do a whole different routine than the one you're doing. I may put in my body different food than you do, but we all are labeled the same, and we all are wanting to be treated the same. So precision health is where all these functional diagnostics are beginning to recognize that each individual person must be evaluated as an individual and no longer assume that just because you have this and that symptom, I'm going to label it and give you a life sentence that now you have to learn to live with that label or live with that label for the rest of your life. I've often said to people, don't let your diagnosis become your life sentence. It's not meant to define you. A diagnosis is only there, an opinion. That's the way I look at it. An opinion based on the training of the healthcare provider that you're currently going to. So if they give you one opinion and maybe you don't feel that it makes sense, or perhaps it doesn't feel right for you, or perhaps what they're recommending does not feel right or give you a side effect, then go to a different opinion, somebody that's been trained totally different, right? In a different way of looking at the body. And maybe you'll find insight in that opinion and maybe even a treatment that may be more appropriate for you. And then maybe you get a third opinion and you go to a different specialist and then you try to find somebody that does that. Now, the reason that natural health sciences have been so effective, according to the science, in the reversing or reducing the chronic diseases is because we focus on root cause. We're going to get into your lifestyle. And more importantly, we're going to make you get engaged into your own
Yes.
health. Because at the end of the day, it's your body. You can't trade it in. I wish you could. You cannot trade it in. And if you don't believe me, ask any billionaire that is struggling with a major disease process. They will give all their fortune to get their health back or to get a new body. But you can't. So why not take care of it as early as you can? And also be the example so your children can start making better choices, because that's the next generation that we really need to talk about as to the future of healthcare.
Absolutely. And the beauty of this podcast is it's not supposed to be just for your ears. Although we appreciate and love you, we want you to share because sharing is caring. And one of the pieces here is personal empowerment. Now, as we know, we talked about symptoms. And as Dr. Fab put together in a book that took him time, talent, and wisdom to put together, personal empowerment is about you feeling uplifted and learning those lifestyle changes that he just discussed with you. Now, Dr. Fab, before we go with one last question in personal empowerment, one thing always strikes me interesting is that we absolutely want to have a collaborative team in our lives that showcases the least aggressive treatment that will get you the best return on your investment. Because, like you said, a billionaire would give everything if, in fact, they could get their health back. Because your greatest wealth is your health. And coming back to that personal empowerment, what frustrates me is when a patient tells me that they have a prescription. In that prescription, perhaps it's, for example, for pain, that it's ongoing. And I ask them, when do you get a reevaluation? When does that medication get a reeval? Because as personal empowerment, you wouldn't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect that it's always going to be the same. We don't eat the same foods. We don't do the same exercise. We don't talk to the same people every day. Why would you expect anything other than changing what you're doing, especially when it comes to medications? How do you know they're working? And that was one of the things that hit me the other day is if you get a prescription, you should know, number one, how long am I going to be on it? Number two, what are the adverse events? What are the things that are going to cause me a problem? What should I look for? Number three, is there a better way? Number four, is this doctor going to help me get off this medication? And especially what many people don't know, the side effects of getting off that medication. So personal empowerment is critical. Dr. Fab, with the last word, tell me from your perspective in the importance of personal empowerment today, what is something you'd like our audience to know that can generate their own personal power, no matter where they're coming from, so their lives will be different?
Well, I think you mentioned quite a bit of it, and that is recently I've had so many people tell me that their provider, their medical provider primarily, were sharing with them medications that they have to be for the rest of their lives. And that concept doesn't make any sense to me, because the reality of it is you can have a change at any time, and you need to be able to measuring along the way, because the goal is to go the opposite direction, not to stay in the same components. So to me, as a parting word, I will tell you this. After 38 years of being in the healthcare industry, and pioneer many things and making a lot of contributions, I can tell you that to me, I boiled down to being healthy and self-health as a very simple process. The process is very simple. Today, all I want you to do is to make a better choice when it comes to your health than you did yesterday. It could be in your morning routine, where you're going to potentially exercise in the morning rather than wake up late and try to rush to work. It could be potentially sitting down and preparing a good breakfast for you and your children rather than rushing out of the house with barely getting anything in your stomach. It could be that during the day, you're going to select more of salads and more organic foods rather than processed foods or fast foods that may not give you the nutritional value that your body requires, not only to produce energy that day, but to actually keep you healthy that day. And that perhaps maybe at night, you're going to try to sleep 7 to 9 hours a night rather than 3 or 4, which is the average American. Maybe you're going to do that by doing a meditation 30 minutes before you go to sleep. Or maybe you're going to cut out all your social media screen, or even watching the news on television 30 minutes before you go to sleep. These are all proven methods that have allowed people to live a much better life. And they live a much better life because they make one choice, 2 choices, 3 choices every day that are better than the ones that they did yesterday. But what happens is that when you start making good choices, it becomes very addictive. And all of a sudden, you're working towards, wow, I felt so much better the next day. I woke up with all this energy and clarity instead of being groggy and tired. I was being more productive at work and found myself more creative. I was able to actually enjoy my relationship with my loved one instead of taking them for granted because I'm not feeling very well. These are the things that not only will change your health, but it will change your life, one choice at a time.
That's beautiful. It's exactly why you pick up the book. That's exactly why that one choice is get the self-health book. Dr. Fab, I am so honored and pleased to have you with us today. You shared a wealth of information. You're a true gem to a healthcare system that really needs to have you at its side, pushing the envelope, asking the questions, and sharing what we're learning, because that is the key to our success. It's not about what we hear. It's not about what we say. It's about what we do every day. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Fab.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for tuning into Adjusted Reality as we spoke to Dr. Fab Mancini about strategies for living a healthier, more balanced life, making those choices today, even if it's just one, that will help you get back into a natural rhythm that changes how your body responds. Everything you do that is more positive is going to create an added impact to your life. And that is why, in fact, you tend to come back to this podcast and get that boost that we all need, that we all deserve. And living life with vitality and strength and the know-how to protect our health is so very vital in today's world. Well, as you know, this podcast was brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress. And we know life moves pretty fast, and we want to make sure you never miss an episode. So you can visit f4cp.org/adjusted reality. You can subscribe to our newsletter right there. Interested in hearing from a specific guest? You can also send us your guest recommendations, and we get quite a few. So for that, we're very grateful. And as you know, we've won several awards this year because of you, because you listen and you take the time to ensure we're right on track. Now, don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast with friends and family, and feel free to rate and review. If you're feeling so inspired to learn more about chiropractic or to, in fact, find a doctor of chiropractic near you, you can visit f4cp.org/find a doctor. If you want to supercharge your whole being, well, our brand new book, Adjusted Reality, comes out on October 14th. You can buy it on Amazon, or you can click the link below in the description of this episode and you can get your copy today. As you know, we appreciate you and your support, and we look forward to checking in with you on another episode of Adjusted Reality.